Good morning, everybody, and happy Wednesday. It is, how do they say it? Oh, yeah, hump day, as we are coming around the hump day of the week. Welcome, everybody, to the Daily Market Commentary. I'm your host, Chuck Fulkerson, getting ready to get rolling with our daily market review, where we take a look at some the same 10 to 12 futures markets every day. But the most important thing is we leave the lines on the charts so that you can see how our trades play out over time and to hold us all accountable to the trades that we identify. For those of you new to the channel, click the subscribe button below so that you can get the updates as they become available. Let's dive right in. So looking first at our S&P. Now, yesterday we were up 40-some points. I said, let's leave our breakdown trade in place here, and we did, as we still have this breakdown trace place in this line in play right now, 2611, call it 2610, breakdown below that area. By the time we get down there, we'll be really deeply extended. So there may be a little hesitation to take that breakdown. I'd like to see us hit a little bounce off of here and then base before that breakdown would occur. If we do come down into it fairly weakly, then there may not be that same move. So just be aware of what it looks like when we arrive into there. I'm going to be very cautious of our arrival upon getting there, because by the time we would get there, if we get there today, that's another 20 points from here. We'd be down 44 points on the day. That's a pretty strong day, but as we've seen for the last few weeks, 40 points in a day is nothing for the S&P anymore. It's 20-something points isn't even 1%, and so when you're at a point where 26 points is 1%. We're not even a 1% downward move yet, but we are basically just kind of in a holding pattern as the market's not doing a whole heck of a lot. We are still in this chopping around, and as one of my friends pointed out on Twitter the other day, and he had a great point, this is a good opportunity for options trading, and options trading becomes trading between the areas, between the zones, as markets kind of popping around. If you look at this on a daily chart, it's very Shakespearean, full of sound and fury, signifying nothing. Lots of ups and downs, lots of shakeouts, but not a whole lot happening. And so, as an investor, the key is not to overreact. As a trader, the key is not to overtrade. And so it's just to wait for your setup, the setup that fits your rules and your plan. So not a whole lot that I want to add to the S&P or the Nasdaq today. The Nasdaq is not down quite as much as the S&P. One of the things I did point out yesterday via Twitter is that our leading market is the Dow Jones, and the Dow Jones as a leading market is not typically going to be great news for bullish investors, because typically the Dow Jones is the leading market in weak markets. So the Nasdaq has been kind of the leading market to the downside when we have had big downs. So the fact this isn't down as much is really actually pretty good. So I'm going to put a breakout for the Nasdaq above this 6660, 6660 for a potential long, and then a short below this 6469 area right here. So let's take a look next at crude oil. Now, crude oil, we're coming to our high that we talked about for a potential breakout long. We were unable to get back to our entry on this one here, as it's kind of continued to rally up. None of my entries have seemed to be able to get back in. We had a nice breakout after this base right through here. So what we really need to look at is what is this area going to look like if we get a pullback into this range, into this region. Going up into here, I'd like to see us base before we pop through here. So we'll see whenever that does occur, what it looks like on the arrival. As it stands right now, this is not a great breakout or setup. Remember, our breakout setups have to include some basing before we get to the actual breakout. Gold. So gold, we had a breakout yesterday. So we said that if we get a breakout above this line, it's a chance to take a long. And that's exactly what we did. We broke out above this area, and then we've gotten a really nice pop out of there. So hopefully you're able to run on this gold trade, and it's moving your way. I'm going to remove this line here. So our breakout in gold has paid off dividends as it's rallying higher. Just be aware of the the area of selling up above us. So just keep that that resistance line in mind as we are approaching it. Maybe take some stops, or take your stops, move it up, and pull some off the table. So looking now at our bonds. So our bond market, we didn't really get the breakout we were looking for in bonds. Yesterday we talked a little bit about this triangle and this triangle area here. When we break out of it, it's a breakout. This was not a breakout. This is just a kind of a weak move, kind of that triangle. And so there wasn't an official triangle pattern in play. I still think that this area down here becomes a valid reversal point if we come into this range, and this would be that base of a mountain, as we talked about yesterday, although it's not a very, very large mountain chain, right? We don't have a big mountain range here, but at the base of the mountain, that's where we would, that's where our bulls would take back over, and we would anticipate price to rally up from that area. Now here in the Aussie, we had a dashed line, and when we have a dashed line in play, we wait for price to come in, and then we get short as it comes back out. Now we put the dashed line here because this was an area that's already been used by this region over here to the left, and so by using the dashed line, that means that we should not have gotten filled on this entry yesterday. There's no reason to get filled on that entry. So we're going to remove that line. That shouldn't cost you anything. That should just simply be a setup that didn't work, but it's a setup that didn't work for no loss. And those are always going to be happy opportunities for me. I'm okay not getting into a trade that doesn't fit my rules. What would I look to add to the Aussie? Well, our momentum to this upside is definitely weakening, and so that's really why I was looking for a selling opportunity. With our momentum further weakening, we've got this area, this buy opportunity right here. This could be, we're getting a little bounce off of this area here and then kind of coming up from it. If this area falls, I think that we could show further weakness. So I would really be okay if you went down to a smaller time period and maybe utilized a breakdown below some of this area here to get short for the next opportunity. Looking at our Canadian dollar, so in the I forgot the euro. Looking at the euro, we had an entry set up on the euro. Price came back in, gave us a touch. This was what we call the touch and go, right? This was a touch and go entry on the euro. We gave us a touch back into the area. And then, boom, price has moved out of that area pretty nicely. So hopefully some of you were able to catch that euro long, and it's been running since we got the touch on that one. So let me know in the comments below if you're able to catch that euro long as that one's continuing to move. Looking at our Canadian dollar, we had our area way down here. We're fairly far away from that. Looking at it on the 4-hour time period, we're very far away from this area up here. So we're kind of, I don't want to call it a no man's land, but we definitely have this region right here where I think it would be acceptable to get a little bit of a reversal back down into that region. So let's cut it down to the hourly time period and see. Now, the thing I don't love about this is how long we hung around this period of time. This is many, many, many hours. But if you look at those many hours, they start in the afternoon and they end at about 4 a.m. So the big price movements occurred right around U.S. market open. And so by occurring right around U.S. market open, there is still going to be, there's maybe still some buying opportunity in here, but it's not as high of a probability area. Last but certainly not least, our last couple of markets to evaluate. Looking here at the Great British Pound, our long breakout in the British Pound is still running. I would definitely have your stop moved up to at least underneath this pivot low right here because we are definitely showing some weakness in that upward movement. The Japanese yen, we still have our reversal trade in play up here, waiting for price to come in and then getting short as it comes out. So nothing really to add to that case. So with that being said, I'm going to turn this thing off for the day. Very quickly, for those of you that are clients of II Financial, we have our quarterly client quarterly client webinar this evening. So I will talk to you all this evening on our quarterly client webinar. For those of you that like a little bit more information about IIA Financial and how we work as far as the management of the wealth piece, feel free to give me an email, chuck@iiefinancial.com. Go to the website and fill out a contact us form, and we will get back to you soon. Until tomorrow, everybody, have a great day, and we will see you soon. Later.